Welcome to the Agents Lounge podcast, where we talk all things real estate with the industry's top performers. Join us as we dive into the inspiring journeys of successful agents and uncover the secrets to their success. Whether you're a seasoned agent or just starting out, we got the tips and tricks to help you navigate the world of real estate. Brought to you by Integrity Comfort Solutions. So grab a seat and join us in the Agents Lounge.
Good afternoon and welcome to this week's The Agents Lounge, your local podcast for all things real estate, realty, and the latest innovations in helping you find your new home. As always, I'm your host, Larry, assisted by Francisco, sponsored by Integrity Comfort Solutions, your local leader in comfort solutions. Today on the show, we have Mr. Thomas Fentress. Welcome, sir.
Thank you.
Mr. Fentress is a local real estate professional with many years in the business. We were talking right before he hopped on, and he's actually done quite a few other things too, kind of a jack of all trades. So if you wouldn't mind telling us a little bit about your background and what brought you here today.
Well, my grandfather and father were builders and turned into developers at one point, so I kind of grew up around the family business. And when I was old enough to work in the business, I was pushing a broom in houses that were being built, and then slowly started doing more and more things in between the contractors. And when I got older, back then Trinity University had a home building program, and a lot of the local builders, many names you'd recognize, went through that, and they were just kind of shutting it down at that point because it wasn't quite Ivy League enough for them. So I snuck in there for a few semesters and things, and then my grandfather passed away, and my father said, "Hey, you're on your path to come join us. I need your help. Why don't you come now?" And so I started building houses in the early '80s, and we would take them from scratch to handing the customer the keys. I think we peaked at about 35 houses a year. I was talking to a friend of mine who was a lifetime friend of mine who was a banker at the time. He was a banker with Kelly Field and Wells Fargo after that, and he was reminding me that back in the 80s, I was borrowing millions of dollars to do interim construction loans, and I was like 23, 24 years old. So he said that wasn't normal.
Well, I mean that I don't think that's not even normal in 2023. Wow.
Probably not, I guess, but that was just life. So it was just, but the market changed after '86 when they changed a lot of the tax laws and a lot of the savings loans collapsed, and along came the RTC, people that experienced it, the Resolution Trust Corporation, and there was a whole lot of foreclosures, and we were watching paint dry. And so I decided rather than try to live off of family business, I'd use the real estate license I'd gotten in '84, and about '89, '90, I started selling real estate, and I've been doing it for the last 33 years.
Wow. Now, okay, that's almost like you were first start off in like the Brady Bunch style garden homes, all the way to these modern homes that they got today. Wow.
Yeah.
And so you have a lot of experience not only in building them and plus selling them and everything in between then.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's funny. I was telling somebody earlier today about my next door neighbor complaining about his sprinkler leaking for the second or third time, and having been around construction my whole life, I was like, what that's a symptom of is high water pressure. He's an engineer, I said, I've got a gauge in the back of my car. You want to take a peek? And we slapped it on his hose, and he was 100 pounds instead of the max of 80 that you want. And I said, you might want to call your insurance agent and make sure that leaks in the slab are covered, and also get a plumber out here. And I, of course, recommended a plumber that I always recommend with Core Plumbing, and he was happy to have learned it. But,
wow. Okay. Yeah. I got to say, a lot of realtors, they may outsource some of those types of work, but the fact that you kind of have the in-depth, on-the-ground knowledge.
I'm not the guy that'll tell you that that's definitely what it is, but I can tell you what the symptoms look like.
Yeah. Well, that's kind of pointing in the right direction, or you may be able to say what it isn't.
Yeah.
Which process of elimination.
Yeah.
This is what it is. I mean, how did you overcome some of those obstacles along the way? Because it sounds like, about 30 plus years ago, you had to jump ship into another ship.
I switched sides of the desk is what I jokingly said. I had agents on the other side of the desk for me when I was building houses, and then I was over there. And I always thought that the real estate agents were when I was on the other side of the desk, I thought they were kind of like used car dealers. I didn't say that because I've been one for 33 years. but I thought they all, wore plaid pants and white patent leather shoes and sold people what they wanted to sell them. And I learned in getting my license and taking some other classes that the only way to be successful is to get your clients what they want and make them happy so that they go out and become your referral business. And so then it wasn't so salesy. It was much more assisting the client. And I like that idea a lot better. I was wired that way. I fell into the building thing, but it was never natural. It was just the family business. But when I found this, it was a good natural fit, and I could tell right away. And I said, I'm going to like this. And so I had to learn how to go on vacation after that.
You took the family business and just expanded it into different realms of what they were originally doing.
Yeah, switched it around. What the odd part about it was my friends kept teasing me that they were going to stop asking me to help them move because I would be doing punch lists on their things, and they would make them miserable.
It's kind of like when you see the check engine light come on and it gives you anxiety. They were kind of worried about, this guy's a walking check engine light. He's going to tell me what I need to fix. Oh my God, I mean, you've seen the real estate industry kind of evolve over the last 30 plus years or so. I mean, where do you see it going? I mean, what are some of these trends that you maybe have seen? I know we talked a little bit about technology coming down the pipeline and stuff like that. I mean, where do you think it's going to be headed?
We're doing a lot of there's a lot of changes happening. I think what it has been for decades, an easy job to get into, and with a low percentage of people that are still there in 6-7 years. I think it's going to become much more of a specialized business, in that there are so many companies that have gotten into it and so many companies that are buying straight from sellers that there's not going to be the room for all of the people that there's been room for in the past.
So it's going to shrink.
Yeah, that's what I.
It's interesting.
I can only imagine that happening because there's just so many more avenues that have opportunities to get in there. If you're a corporation that has millions or billions of dollars to invest, and you know that if you can just use advertising to get your foot in the door, and that 7 out of 10 people that are the first one in the door get the business, then that's pretty good odds. And so all they really have to do is advertise. They don't have to be the best thing for that client. They're not fiduciaries like an agent is. And so they're serving their own interests, and they're using their own contracts. So people don't know that they've gotten themselves into something that maybe they didn't really plan on until it's far too late.
And then at that point, I mean, you're just grasping for straws.
Then I just hear the stories.
The after the fact.
Yeah.
The after the fact. Yeah. I mean, do you have like a memorable deal or something that you think stands out over all these years of experience in terms of a deal you closed, a client you helped, or something along those lines?
Lots of them. It's kind of hard to pick. I've probably been 1,000 deals over that many years. I think of ones like someone that was referred to me that had someone look at their property, and I had to tell her that her house was actually worth about $55,000 to $60,000 more than what they had told her, what she was getting ready to sell it for.
Okay.
So that was fascinating. Try to look at things from a lot of different angles. There's a lot of ways to value properties that not being an actual appraiser, we can use some common sense and extrapolate and do some other things to check our work. And so a lot of times people think nowadays, well, I can go online and I can just look at this estimate, and I won't spell that out because there's one that a lot of people think they use right now, and it really doesn't have good data that it uses. And so there's a lot of incorrect information floating around out there, and people don't realize that they can get an experienced realtor to help them, and they won't necessarily charge them for it in many instances to give them much more accurate information.
Well, you kind of hit on something there. I've known people who are potentially interested in real estate or home buying and all that. There's a lot of fear, maybe first generation folks who they came from homes that maybe they didn't own their home growing up. What would you say to someone who maybe has that trepidation about man, I don't know if I can do this, or if I'm afraid to go talk to a real estate professional. What would you recommend?
I was fascinated. I was talking to somebody from the east, the far east this morning in the background, and she was saying that the people that they know are worried about having conversations with people because they're going to charge them. And the culture is just different than ours, and we think, who would charge them? You know, and we don't even realize that that's a concern. But I think we need to be a little bit more sensitive to the clients, that, you know, what their concerns are. Unfortunately, as agents, we get busy and we get to doing lots of deals, and we're all happy because, oh, look, business is good. And sometimes you get in such a hurry, you can forget to listen to your clients. And unfortunately, in a lot of industries, there's not a lot of active listening going on. You know, you're not just there to get a signature on the listing agreement. You're there to get them what they need. And I've had clients that was a shock to me when it first happened to me. The money wasn't the most important thing. When they turned to me and said, "No, you don't understand. I just don't want to own two houses in two different states at the same time." And I said, "Well, you're underselling this one." He goes, "That's fine. I want to make sure that I only own one house at a time." And that was one of the first of many instances where I learned to ask people, what do we really want here?
Yeah.
Because it's not always how can I net the most amount of money. A lot of the time it is, of course, but not always.
Yeah. I mean, Francisco and I, just for those that don't know, him and I went to graduate school together. We got our master's degrees at the same time in organizational leadership. And one of the themes that came up is people who listen to respond or listen to care. And there's a difference, you know. So, and there's a difference between hearing and listening. And you hit on a few themes in there that kind of come up. You sincerely want to listen to somebody and see what, you know, your skill set, how that can help them,
Instead of waiting to speak.
Yes, exactly. And I think we live in this transactional world where, you know, people, you know, I'm going to do this, you do that, you know, and there's no real, like, you know, critical thinking involved in that. And with the years of experience you have, I mean, you sound like you definitely know what you're doing. You could help somebody out.
Well, I had a phone conversation with a relative last night, and they're one of the worst that I know, unfortunately, about not listening to. They're waiting to speak, and I could have told her that zebras were stampeding outside the front door, and it wouldn't. She'd have just gone right back into what she was talking about. Yeah. So it's very frustrating, but I mean, that's the thing about in any industry, but especially ours. We get too caught up in the numbers and too caught up in the, oh, you know, look who won the award this year, et cetera, and, you know, don't forget that, you know, it's the humans that you're helping, not not the plaques that you're searching for.
Yeah, I mean, some people are in it for the accolades and the money, obviously, and all that, and that's all well and good. But I personally see real estate as a service-oriented industry. It's not just about the bottom line. It's about helping people move to the next step in their life.
Well, if people weren't involved, we could do real estate with computers tomorrow. It's such a true thing that the real estate business is a people business, not a land business so much. We all get in the way. Sometimes you're negotiating a deal and you have to figure out, am I arguing with their client or am I arguing with their agent? You know, why is this not getting through? And sometimes it's the agent, and sometimes it's not. But it's interesting because then you can approach it from a different angle when you figure that out.
And you're like, well, why am I even arguing to begin with? How do we get to this point?
Yeah, exactly. Well,
you know,
and that's true. Something else came from conversation this morning. We've got a lot of new people in our industry right now. I saw a statistic where 49% have been in business for 4 years or less that are members of the local board, which means a lot of the time you're dealing with somebody without a whole lot of experience. And it's nice when you know that, and you can kind of help them not miss things, because when the wheels come off during a transaction, it makes everybody look bad.
Yeah.
So I try to, in all my dealings, I have to-do list that has everybody's to-dos on it, not just mine, so that I can keep track and everything and kind of give gentle reminders. Hey, did you order the appraisal? Hey, it's been a week and a half. Is the appraisal back? Et cetera, little things. Even when that's not my job, if it's 2.5 weeks later and it's not back, I look just as foolish as the person that didn't check on it.
Yeah. Well, when one goes down, they all go down, right?
Yeah, a lot of experience, like the thousands of homes you sold. We still see clients where they bought a home, they didn't even have an air vent in their master bedroom. I was like, what do you mean you, like, did anybody ever think of looking up in the attic to see if that room had AC? Or what's the other one? Or
That's where Air Integrity can help you out.
Or they didn't even have a return there. So it's like, these people are buying and selling homes without even knowing what at least the minimum.
Yeah.
The minimum, like, you should at least know that, hey, man, I went in there and there wasn't any air in that room.
I've seen them skip the master closet a lot of the time.
Oh, yeah.
And it's hot in that closet when they do.
Or one of the bathrooms, like the guest bathroom or something like that, or the
Utility room would be death.
Oh God, especially like right now. God help you if you got to do utility work in there.
Ooh.
I
But I had a house that was under contract and they inspected it and it was a brand new build and they did not put a single vent in the attic. There was no turbines, there was no soffit vents, nothing. Yeah. So it was going to get, it was going to be 100 or 200 degrees in the attic and melting the shingles from the bottom, basically. And they got to be smart alecky about it. And the walkthrough, they had put vents in the garage on the floor.
On the floor?
Yeah. In other words, you do it.
Oh.
My buyer, we didn't close, and she bought something else. But
wow.
It was. We were like, God, the nerve, But
well, you kind of alluded to something. When people go out and they're looking at properties and whatnot, sometimes they'll go out on their own because like I mentioned, they're worried about going to a realtor. I mean, what do you recommend to someone out there if they're just looking at a home to go to an open house? Of course, they're going to make the property look pretty razzle dazzle. But, I mean, what do you recommend they look at or ask or anything like that?
Well, first of all, I have a 45-minute to an hour orientation I do with first-time buyers and sometimes people that have bought before.
Oh, wow, that's great.
We go over all the terms and what happens when and how long everything takes and what everything's for. And one of the things I coach them about is, in a large part, most of the open houses you see are really people out there trying to collect buyers. They know odds are they're not going to find a buyer that way. Since we've invented lock boxes, it's not hard to get in a house.
Mm-hmm. Oh, like the Open Door app? Or
even that. That's even easier. So I these days, when you're walking in an open house, you're basically, saying, hey, turn me into one of your buyers. So, I coach them to say, hey, tell them you're already working with an agent. And if you are interested in the house, text me, call me, and I'll take a look at it with you, et cetera. But there's a lot of things to look at in those. You can kind of see when there's issues with the house and people have tried to conceal them. There's still telltale signs. I'm sure you see that in the air conditioning business.
Yeah, that's very much so.
It's and they think they're getting away with something, and so it's pretty interesting to spot. But I try to warn them, that the things that they might come across in the process, so that they're more educated and they feel a lot more confident, because it's a scary thing, especially when they're buying for the first time. I got to warn them up front what buyer's remorse is.
Yeah.
A day or so after you go into contract with this thing, you're going to be going, what in the world did I do? And we all do that. Even realtors do that. After when they buy something, you kind of go, well, that's I hope I'm doing the right thing.
Yeah.
And so, I warn them that's coming. And so that when it comes, it's not this strange alien feeling. Instead of them going, oh no, and calling me and going, what am I doing? I get a phone call going, hey, you remember how you said I was going to feel like maybe I made a mistake? Hey,
yeah.
It happened this morning. And,
yes.
That's a much better phone call.
Well, it kind of reminds me. I know you said you started doing this back in the '80s. That 1986 movie, The Money Pit, with Tom Hanks and Shelley Long. I don't know. Is there any truth to that?
Some.
So, okay. I mean, I don't know if it's available for streaming, but I would highly recommend folks to take a look at that if you're looking for a good real estate laugh.
It's exaggeration for comic purposes, but it's still it's a cute movie, and to some extent it's based in, like all good humor, some of it's based in truth.
Yeah, I could only imagine. I mean, do you have any like horror stories that stand out in your mind? things you've helped people with?
Oh my gosh, I of course, as you ask me, everything goes out of my head. But I'm thinking about, I used to do a lot of warranty work when we were building houses, and I remember my father telling me a story about a lady complaining about the carpet was prematurely dirty in the traffic patterns, and while he's standing there, the daughter walks in the door and walks down the hall, and he calls the daughter back and says, "Can we see the bottom of your feet?" And she's walking around outside, and they're black from walking in the street. and so years later, I'm doing the warranty work, and I'm talking to a lady that's complaining about her carpet, and I remember this story of my dad's, and I look down, and the lady I'm talking to is standing on the carpet, barefoot, and before I can look up again, out of the corner of my eye, I see her dog dragging its behind across the carpet.
Oh,
and I was like,
oh.
I had to think very carefully about what to say next.
Man, that goes back to knowing when to talk and knowing when to listen. Yeah. Oh my gosh. I mean, what would you recommend to somebody who may be contemplating, this as a career, as a profession, or even a career change, maybe for a mid-career professional?
Well, it's funny. I've never been able to tell you who was going to make a good agent, who wasn't. They just talk about coming in all shapes and sizes, and personality types, introverts, extroverts. There are all kinds that have been really excellent at it. So it's really difficult to say who would be good in it. I do warn people. I said, look, of course, like any organization, they love to sell classes to people, and whether you stick around or not is not really their problem. It's your taking the risk, investing in the time to get into something. It's not extremely hard to get into, but the staying around rate is not, stellar. So you really need to kind of figure out if it's something for you. Like any job that has really odd hours that can be weekends and evenings at times, it better be something you enjoy doing.
Yeah.
Because otherwise that becomes a real chore, and of course, because in a large aspect of it is really your own discipline. If I used to jokingly use the Oprah example, if you're going to watch Oprah all day long, you're not going to sell any property, but that's long gone. But but the people that don't push themselves, it's real easy to get distracted, especially with the internet now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but people with discipline, whatever kind of discipline that is, it might be really excellent. But like I said, I wish I could look at somebody or talk to somebody and tell you whether or not they would be a deal candidate, but it is bizarrely inconsistent.
Because there's inconsistent and then apparently bizarrely inconsistent, which is like total haywire apparently altogether, do you do any kind of like philanthropic work or any kind of volunteer work, anything like that you maybe have done in the past?
I do things that come up. We have all kinds of opportunities that pop up now and then with Food Bank and other things. I've done stuff with them in the past, and one of the things I've done in past years is I'll keep my eyes open for a deal where somebody's really in trouble. And I had one where a guy had been my waiter for years at a well-known restaurant and always been real nice to us and taking good care of us and everything. And he needed to sell his house, and his kids were getting older, and he had like 4 kids, boys and girls, and they were all jammed into the same bedrooms and everything. And he's like, man, I got to get out of here. I got to get a bigger house. And carpet was threadbare. You could see the floor through it, et cetera. And he couldn't really afford to sell and pay off his note. And I basically went to him and said, look, I'm just going to do this for what it cost me and pay my E&O insurance and get you out of here. I pick one of these deals now and then, and that's my charity deal because somebody I know that I can see needs it.
Yeah.
So it's kind of nice because you get to, basically your hands on the.
Yeah, you have an impact.
Yeah. So, but you got to keep your eyes open, but every once in a while, those two come up. Usually about once every year, sometimes not quite that often.
That's good. I mean, that's real good.
I was going to ask you.
Yeah, go ahead, Francisco.
Yeah, so it's going to be 2 questions. One of them is going to be, what inspired you when you first started? I know you mentioned how you were already in the industry, but if you can think of someone or anyone that kind of inspired you to be who you are today, and also, what's your goal for, I don't know, the next 5-10 years?
there was an agent in my office that was there when I got there, and he, I liked a lot of the things that he did and the way that he did them, and I had numerous conversations. There was actually 2 or 3 agents, to be fair, that I bounced things off of a lot. There was like multiple mentors, and they were really giving it their time, and I really benefited from them. There were a couple things I didn't agree with them on where we diverged, but for the most part, that really helped a lot and inspired me. It turns out, having taken tests later and everything else, my personality is naturally geared towards protecting people, and so that part, when I found out that the industry that I had gotten into, basically taking care of people, making sure that they don't make mistakes, making sure that they don't spend too much or to do the wrong thing, goes along that same vein. So I that really fired me up, because I was like, wait, that's what I'm doing.
Yeah.
And so I enjoyed that. Now, what was the second part?
The
future.
Yeah.
It's funny. I've shifted in the last couple of years to really looking more for first-time buyers. I've got a lot of, a good number of people who, will call me up and say, sell this for me, tell me when it's done, tell me where to sign, and, they just trust me and everything else. The opposite side of that coin is if somebody has never done it before and doesn't know what to trust and what everything else. And I've actually kind of enjoyed that more, and I haven't done a lot of that in past years. Kind of drifted away because a lot of my clients base got older and more experienced with me, and so now it's kind of fun when I get the early on guys, because I can take them all through it and simplify it, and it's a lot of fun seeing through their eyes and everything else. So I'd like to do a little bit more of that. I do some land and ranches and things like that, and that's awfully. It's hard to not have fun showing property in Texas countryside, So those things are, doing more of that is fun. But people ask me, would you retire? And I'm like, yeah. Wouldn't it be great if I had a hobby and I could find something I loved, and maybe if even I got paid, that would be good too. I wonder what that might. Wait a minute, I'm already doing that.
Yeah.
So
I mean that's almost like the holy grail of your work, is you find something that aligns with your personal interests and drive and stuff, and you can make it as successful as you had done.
Yeah, enjoy it.
And you mentioned it's a family business. I mean, are you planning to hand this off to someone else in your family, or?
My kids so far are not really wired for it. My son's getting ready to get an engineering degree at Trinity. My daughter just started college, and she's looking to be a psychologist in that direction. So they have kind of the directions they want to be. And like I was saying, I think it really matters that that's what it's for. I was lucky that I fell into it. We had my whole family had real estate licenses. Most of them had broker's licenses. I accidentally got my broker's license. I figured out that you could take the test for $40, and so I figured I'd go see what was on the test and look up all the terms that we never use that are on every test. And I went in and to take it, and I was leaving, and the lady said, "Wait a minute, don't you want to know what you scored?" And I went, "Oh, okay." And she said, "You passed."
That's good. That's
So,
real good.
What?
Oh wow.
So that was fun.
That is interesting. I think we're getting a little close to time.
Yeah.
Sir. Before we wrap it up, I'm just gonna ask you just a random question here, just to get you knowing you as a person. If there was like one person that you could sit and have dinner with, whether it's in politics, music, theater, whatever the case may be, who would you want to sit with, and why would Thomas Fentress want to sit with them?
Wow, that's a good one. There's a lot. There'd be a lot of folks. Probably an author. Probably.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Do we have to do living or dead?
Either one. We have a time machine, sir.
Okay.
Air integrity, time travel.
Mark Twain.
Oh, Mark Twain. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, why is that?
No, I can't imagine how much fun it would be to have dinner with that character.
A true Renaissance man interviewed by another true Renaissance man.
But that I never thought about that before.
Okay. Oh, that's food for thought today on the Agents Lounge. I love it. So, Francisco and I have had conversations like that before too, and so, thought provoking. Maybe you might think about it the rest of the week. I wonder what I would talk to Mr. Twain about. You never know. You never know. Tom Fentress, thank you today for joining us on the Agents Lounge. We highly appreciate your time, your input, your energy, your expertise. Clearly, you know a lot about real estate, and you're welcome to come back anytime you like.
Appreciate it. Thank you for having me. I enjoyed it.
Our pleasure. Thank you for joining us today. We'll see you next week on our next episode of The Agents Lounge, sponsored by Airtegrity Comfort Solutions, your local leader in comfort solutions.
You've been listening to the Agents Lounge podcast, brought to you by Airtegrity Comfort Solutions. To learn more about the resources mentioned on today's show or to listen to past episodes, please visit agentsloungepodcast.com.